Okay, good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. So, we'll not wait for more participants now. We'll start right away. And okay, hopefully you are able to see me and the presentation. My name is Mustafa Zaidi, and I'm the Vice Principal of Curriculum Development at Focus High School. I'm also the Middle Years Program Coordinator for MYP. So I heartily welcome you to this webinar. It's not a lengthy talk at all. I would like you to know that I have already sent the entire MYP assessment policy to you. I have mailed you on your Words account. So you will hopefully refer. You can easily refer to the MYP assessment policy now. And if you have any questions, I have pasted a link in the Zoom chat. I'll post it again if you need it. Yeah, it is here. So everybody can see this. You are invited to, for security reasons, we are not enabling chat or voice. Please feel free to ask any kind of question through this Google form, and if possible, I'll try to answer the questions right here or through email to you, because this form collects your email address. Okay. So now this is actually the third webinar in the series, and we have already spoken about the MYP philosophy, the principles, the practices, and various other components of, and how does the unit look like in MYP. And now today we are going to look at one of the most important aspects of the entire the MYP journey, which is MYP assessment. So MYP assessments are one of the most developed and most rationalized kind of assessments, because there is a lot of flexibility in using the tools, strategies to assess, and it's just not anymore based on numbers that don't usually give a good idea about the students' performance of skills and attitudes. So basically, we look at it in a little detail now. MYP assessment policy, and I'm just going to confirm with one of our colleagues if they are able to listen to the voice and video properly. Okay. Okay, so hopefully that check is okay. Yeah. And please use this question form. I have pasted the link in the chat. You may please go ahead and use this form to ask as many questions as you want. So starting right away with the timeline, what is happening right now as far as Ibe authorization is concerned. So we are almost in the last stages of candidacy phase. So we have a consultant visit on Monday and Tuesday. That's 26 and 27. This is a virtual visit because Ibe is not permitting physical visits right now due to the pandemic. And we have a virtual visit on Monday and Tuesday. The Ibe consultant will basically understand if the school is ready for authorization or not. So there's a huge checklist that we have to comply with. There are lots of documentation that has to be complied with. So we are through that, and hopefully we'll lead to the next stage on Monday and Tuesday. And then after that, the consultant generates a report, and our application for authorization opens somewhere after a month. And we are expecting verification, final verification visit. This final verification visit is usually something that a team from IB comes physically to the school and inspects. So if IB is planning to open verification visits, that's okay. If not, they will do it virtually, and that's what is happening everywhere in the world. So that we are expecting in November, and it takes around 2 to 3 months for IB to finally give a report and authorize a school, and then hopefully will be part of IB World Schools. So this is we are in the last stage of authorization and the candidacy. Okay. Once again, I would like to. Okay. So now I'm directly sharing the assessment policy on screen. This is the same policy that I have shared with you. So when you can either open it on your device and look at it while I'm talking, or you can refer it later. I'm going to launch this in a moment. Okay, hopefully you are able to see it on your screen. The MYP assessment policy, the same policy that I shared with you all. This is an updated version of the policy. And so basically it starts with, I'm not going to read out the policy too. That's not the purpose of this webinar. I have shared it with you so that you can, along with your child and your family members, you can read the policy. It is so important that you understand everything that is written in this policy. It concerns your child's academic progress. It concerns how your child will move from unit to unit with accomplishments and achievements. Okay, so assessment policy will basically look at how much the child was able to assimilate, right, and synthesize. Okay, so this is very important, especially for parents and as students as well. So there is the length of text here that describes why we want to assess it. So earlier in our days, assessment was a single point event. It was a single exam based on a certain set of marks, and you get 75 or 60 or 83 on 100 marks paper, and that shows your performance level, right? That was the only indicator. Then it would never tell me how well was I able to articulate things and different parts of the assessment that make it up actually. So here, when we are talking about assessments, we are talking of authentic assessments, where we are looking at individual components of child's learning. So their inquiry, their action, and the reflection, basically. So and these are all based on the cutting edge research and very strongly founded knowledge among the leading educators. What should be the qualities of effective assessment? They should be authentic, they should be varied. It means you have to use various tools to come to a judgment about how the skills are being acquired by a learner. It should be developmental in nature. That means it should actually show progress from point A to point B to point C. And then it should be collaborative in nature. That means students also become an agency as well as a part of the assessment design, not the assessment content. The assessment content is the actual examination, but the assessment design. So, for example, what could be the how could we break up one criteria into different assessment activities? So there is a lot of scope for collaboration there. And then it has to be interactive. It means it is just not, the assessments are just not designed to be isolated in nature, right? That doesn't mean that assessment responses have to be compromised. They have to be original, they have to be authentic. Okay, now I think this is something that every one of us needs to understand, the entire teachers and students and the parents as well. So assessment capable practitioners. So when we say assessment capable practitioners, we are actually talking about our holistic understanding of how a assessment should be. So you can see there are different aspects. For example, an assessment capable practitioner here is just not the teacher, it is the student and the other stakeholders in the community, the school community as well, right? And they should be able to plan for multiple opportunities for success. And they should, I wish I could give example for each, but I might share that later. These are wonderful, this is just not text, these are wonderful ideas that when they get implemented, create a culture of authentic assessment. So I would first request you to read everything that is there, and we have a lot of scope for improvement. You can always get back to us for questions. I will come to this part, and this is also important. It shows how you assess the learning. And we assess the learning basically in two segments, I'll say. One is formative assessment and another is summative assessment. When we say formative assessment, we are actually looking at this part. We are doing it for learning, as learning, and off learning. And summative assessment is the culmination of all the learning at the end. That is the reason summative assessments are usually at the end of the unit. And as far as the unit flow is concerned, this is the first unit going on. The first unit is going to the assessment weeks are starting probably from 16th of August. So 16th to 30th of August are the assessment weeks, where we do assessments as well as PTMs in the form of student led conferences. So students will actually share with parents and the teachers insights about their learning through assessment reports. So in that week, you will see summative assessments happening, summative assessments being assigned, because they are the culmination of learning. And there are a lot of formative assessments happening, and the more a teacher does formative assessments, the more insight they gather about the learner and the learning experiences. So summative assessments do have their important place, but a very meaningful and rich insight about learning happens in formative assessments. So this is the MYP Principles and Practices, which basically tells us what has to be assessed. So these are the subject groups that we have. You know that we have 8 subject groups. And then we have, these are the 4 objectives. The 4 objectives are directly mapped to the 4 criteria, assessment criteria. So for example, you have objective A, B, C, and D for language and literature in English. So you also have to assess the same criteria, same objective. You have to assess A, B, C, and D as well. So if a teacher selects A and C for this particular unit, the teacher will select A and C for assessment criteria. So basically, teacher selects the same criteria, which is also the objective of the unit. And once we assess that objective, so let us say, for example, in this unit, in the unit 1 that is going on, the teacher has selected, teacher might select all the 4 criteria, teacher might select any 1 or 2. It all depends on the subject group overviews planned for the entire year. But the only condition from IB to generate the final report is that each criteria must be assessed at least 2 times in a year. That is what point number 2 says. Point number 9 says, the subject group objectives are aligned with assessment criteria. The teachers must address all the strands of subject groups and assess all the strands of assessment criteria at least twice in a year as mandated by IBO. This is a requirement. This is a definite requirement from IBO. So each criteria gets a, there is a scale, achievement level. So when there is no evidence, the learner gets 0. When there are evidences, when there is evidence of highest level of performance, they get 8. So the scale is between 0 to 8. And this should happen at least twice in a year, at least twice. A teacher is free to do it 3 to 4 times as well, but at least twice. Each of this criterion A, this criterion B, C, and D must be assessed. And finally, when you add up the achievement levels, you get an indicator, you get a something like a score, right? Something like a score between, because maximum marks are 8, so 8 for the 32, the maximum is 8. And okay, I can see that Zahid has raised a hand. That I won't be able to interact audio due to our security policy. Would you please put your question in the link I posted in the chat? Thank you. And these are the grade boundaries. So let us say a child got 6 in all the criteria. So 6 4s are 24. So if you go here and see, 24 comes here at this level, 24 to 27. So if the score is 24 to 27, then this is called the grade, IB grade. So they get an IB grade of 6. But 6 is not a number. 6 is an indicator. It means this. So everything in IB that is not a number, and points and scores are just not numbers. They indicate a description of quality. So here is the description of that quality. 6 means produces high quality, occasionally innovative work, right? Once again, I may need to set something. Okay. So there was some annotation problem. I turned it off. Thank you. And yeah. So communicates extensive understanding of concepts and demonstrates critical and creative thinking. So the range is from grade 1, which describes work of a very limited quality, to highest grade, grade 7, where it describes a work of very high quality. Okay. And now what we do is we also have to, because we are affiliated to SCRT, that is SSC State Board, we convert MYP grades into SCRT grade points through this conversion scale. So in SCRT, if the score is 3, that is E is the fail result. The minimum is 1, and that is mapped to grade point 4 in SCRT. And the highest limit, grade 7, is mapped to grade point 10, the GPA 10 in SCRT, which translates to grade A1. So when we first have to work out the MYP grade, then convert the grade into SCRT grade points. We also have alignment with local board requirements. This basically, this table gives you some clarity on how things will move from June to March, right? So please study this table. I mean, it is not possible to, just go on reading entire text of the policy. That will bore you out, and you would really be apprehensive about joining next time. So please go through this policy, and please feel free to ask questions through the form. The more questions we record, the more insight we will get about how you are thinking about assessments. And please feel free to ask questions. Do not shy away just because you have to do it online. We will be really, really very happy to address each and every question as we have done in the past. So things are moving in this way. So we have end of unit assessments, and parallelly, we also have to comply with the SSC's FA cycle, which is like 4 essays in a year. So FA1 to FA4. So we have aligned it in this way. What will happen when? And please, you can go through this. This is a tentative plan. Once we till date, we have not received any academic calendar from the state board. It is still pending. They have to give us the academic calendar, but we are going ahead with tentative dates, and if there are any changes, we'll accommodate here. So this is all the text that talks about the assessment cycle. So basically, when I talk about assessment cycle, it means assessments at the end of every unit. So you have an 8-week time for transacting the unit, and then you have week 9 and 10, where you do the assessments and the SLCs, the student-led conference. That is the parent-teacher meetings, basically. So this is the text at length. Please go through them. I mean, this is a very careful. It has taken us at least 1.5 years to write this policy, to understand all the implications, to understand what IB expects from us, to understand how we can align it with state board requirements. So, please go through it as much as possible. I'm sure once you go through it, you will have a lot of doubts. And then reporting. So reporting, grades can only be reported, final report can only be generated in MYP once. Each of the criteria is assessment twice in a year. So that when it is done in March, a final report is generated. But at the end of every unit, you will get end of unit assessment report. So before 30th of August, you get end of unit assessment report after the SLC that you can discuss in SLCs after the assessments. So there are again some parts which are kind of more useful for teachers, but again parents, there's nothing bad parents having a look at it and giving us sharing. Please feel free to discuss ideas also. Please feel free to share any strategies that you know, or for example, this is way. So the IB community is a live community. All parents, students, they are just not receivers of information. They are also producers of information. So please feel free to contribute, share without any bias or judgment. That we are not experts. We are in the process of learning, and we will be happy to take things from you and think about it. So different kinds of assessment tools that we use, submission of work. So for example, when a work is not submitted properly, or when the work is not submitted at all, what happens? This is all the consequences are mentioned here in a way. So this is the flow chart that describes basically how a work is graded and what happens when the work is not submitted. So when a work is not submitted as per our policy, we give them one more chance. We don't record 0 immediately. If there is a genuine problem with the student, we work out. And even after giving the genuine chance, the student fails to do it, then there are consequences, right? And especially if the assessment criteria are not, the criteria are not assessed twice, for that student, report cannot be generated in IB. So this is all about our MYP assessment policy. So my purpose of the webinar was to walk you through this and give you an invitation to read the policy, right? Because even if I take a 2-hour session, it will be very exhaustive to explain each and every point. So please go through this, and maybe you can need more clarifications. If I see there are common clarifications required, I can do one more small webinar, a 15-20-minute webinar with all of you to give the idea. So thank you very much. This MYP assessment policy will also be available in Toddle in the parent section. Even students can access it through your student app, Toddle student app. I have shared it on email. I will share it on WhatsApp as well, so that you have ready access to it. Okay. So 1 second before closing, I would just like to go to that form and understand if there are any questions there. 1 second. I will just use this device to do that. Just a second, I'm opening. I just want to know if there are any questions here. So okay, we have these questions. I just received only one question, and that is about examination, IB examination price and system. So this is, I understand basically you are talking about the international e-assessment. So when you come to year 5, student comes to year 5, they have this optional exam as well. You can opt for IB assessment, which is a relatively costlier exam. It might cost you up to 30 to 40,000 rupees for all the papers. It is externally moderated totally. It's an on-screen examination basically. And there is a registration process for it. Once we are authorized, only then students can take up. So that is possible in 2022. So our first batch, those who are ready and interested for it, might appear in May or August of 2022. There are 2 cycles available. So I still don't see many questions here. So hopefully, please, it's not necessary that you ask all the questions right away, but you are most welcome to ask questions when you read the policy. Please go through the policy and let us know how we can help you there. Thank you very much. You all have a nice afternoon. Thank you for taking out time and joining us. We are going for virtual verification visit. Do wish us good luck for that. And hopefully I'll get back to you with good news. Thank you. Have a nice day.